Florida State's quarterback madness.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. I truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can bet $5 and get another $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, today is a wild day in Florida State football history. Luke Kromenhoek is in the portal. Thomas Castellanos, the Boston College quarterback via UCF, is now in Tallahassee reportedly. I'm really interested to see how this turns out, but I want to give my thoughts before I jump into the chat and get everybody's thoughts. But please, for those of you that are already here and those of you that are getting ready to jump in the chat, a couple of things. Number one, I just want your thoughts about the whole situation with the transfer portal, because right now there's like 700 guys or something who've been in the portal. It's insane. Many of them are making horrendous decisions. But as it relates to Florida State, you got the Nebraska kids are going to talk about them. There's some guys who are going to visit. There's some coaching news I want to talk about. Herb Hand, great guy coming over from UCF. He's going to be the offensive line coach. He's going to impact the portal because Ward only knows Florida State needs help along the offensive line. He's been with Gus at multiple stops. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. And then, of course, again, what are your thoughts? Thomas Castellanos, what are your thoughts in regards to Luke Kromenhoek? What should Florida State do? One quarterback from the portal. Should they take another guy like somebody from Conference USA or something like that to be an extra just because they have to have depth? Kevin Sperry's probably not going to be the answer right away. But first off, I just want to give my thoughts. Two things that really stand out to me. Number one, there is no patience with young players. If they are not the starter, you can pretty much pick the spot. By their sophomore year, they often bounce far before their time. It's something that I've talked about since I took this show over a little over a year ago, but it has gotten to the point now where, like, if it is not just dead set, they don't even go into spring, they're gone. This is the age we're in, and I'm not sure that's very healthy for college football, for Florida State, or for anybody else involved in any of that, but that's where we're at. I have zero idea why Luke decided to leave unless they told him, hey, you're going to have to compete for the job with Thomas or something like that. Maybe it's NIL related. I really don't know. But for a freshman to just bolt like that, something tells me that somewhere along the lines, the communication didn't go very well. And I'm not saying they didn't understand. They just didn't like it. Don't know what it is. So that's unfortunate. The second part of this with the unhappiness with all the players and stuff with the portal, we're starting to see what Florida State can do when they truly are focused as a staff. And I bring this up because several of the players that are potentially, at least, going to come over from Nebraska, there are some good football players there, like Jamar Butler. There's several different guys. I think that's a good start because you got to start with your base, kids that you know. There are like 3 different defensive linemen, one that's an underclassman that hasn't played much. It was a freshman. You got the sophomore, the 6'6" kid, and then you got Butler. That's just at one spot. When you have a guy like Pot Roast, and by the way, I love that nickname. Terrence Knight's got a great nickname. That really cares about his players, that puts effort into recruiting, and you have a product to sell like Florida State, obviously in the Sunshine State, where there's a lot of talent. It gives you a glimpse of what can happen. That's so important because Florida State, like any other school, you got to keep the players coming in, or you're never going to be good on any consistent basis. Florida State lost Farmer. They lost Jackson. That's a lot in the middle. So defensive line is a priority. And I know they got my guy Kevin Wynn, some other good players coming in for the 2025 recruiting class, but you got to have experience and size, not one or the other, both, to be competitive at the Power 4 level. So they need more talent, and especially going to the 3-man line in a 3-3-5 defense out of a base. They need that, so that was good. And I also think just the effort, hearing about how well they put together Getting Caden Salter's possibly going to visit. If it's not a Castellanos right away commitment, maybe Salter visits too. Those are two tremendous football players in terms of their fit for what Florida State's going to be running under Gus Malzahn and under proven production. So I think you're seeing it on both sides of the ball. Once they're focused and got some of these new guys, they got a fire lit under them, there's a chance to be really good. A couple other notes before I jump in the chat here. Just some guys that I've seen in the portal, and I just want to talk about them really quickly, that Florida State and everybody else are probably going to be after. And I've been out the last couple hours, so Lord only knows what's happened since then. So if I miss somebody, again, fire away in the chat. I want to hear your thoughts about the Florida State players, Nebraska players, Luke Kromenhoek, Thomas Castellanos, Caden Salter, all that. But these are a couple of guys that really caught my eye. And I just wanted to give some stats and thoughts. Florida State needs a twitchy slot guy that could also play outside, can run reverses, etc. Well, Eric Singleton is in the portal. He's the Georgia Tech wide receiver that is very, very talented. Florida State knows all too well about Georgia Tech. This year, the 5'11", 190-pounder had 56 catches, 754 yards, 13.5 yards per catch. He's really dangerous with the football after the catch. Here's the most important thing. He caught 7 balls that were thrown 20 yards or more down the field. He averaged 43.4 yards per catch on those plays. When Eric caught the ball and he got a step behind you, it was over. It doesn't have to be Eric Singleton, but Florida State needs a definitive number 1 wide receiver. The stuff that happened this past year is just not acceptable at even a mid-level Power 4 program, let alone the Florida State Seminoles. Doesn't have to be Singleton, but they got to get somebody. And he, for me, would be perfect because the motions, the shifts, making the other team recognize him and getting them out of position. Georgia Tech staff did a good job, but Malzahn does a ton of the same stuff. I've covered UCF when Malzahn was there. They will do the similar. If they can get a guy that's a really shifty guy that will learn the playbook, and it won't be easy to get it all in, but got to do it, Florida State's offense can change dramatically very, very quick. Micah Hudson, the stud out of the state of Texas, went to Texas Tech, is in the portal. Everybody's going to be after him. I know A&M is going to go after him. Kevin Concepcion, the receiver of the NC State that has been really good the last couple of seasons, he's going to be in the portal. I heard Alabama with him. He's got 53 catches, 6 touchdowns this year. They didn't use him anywhere near the way they should have, but that's why NC State's struggling. He averaged 8.7 yards a reception, averaged like 15 the year before. But anyway, he's a really good guy in the middle of the field, third down guy. If you're going to get a quarterback, you need receivers. So one of these kind of players has got to come in. Also, I like to see guys coming up from the next level. Ismail Mahdi, 5'9", about 190 pounds, out of Texas State. He led the nation in all-purpose yards in 2023. Had another good year this year, but didn't have as good a team around him. That's a kid that would be great at Florida State, can catch, can be a return man. He had over 500 yards in returns as a sophomore. That would be a big-time player. I just want to give you an idea, like the portal is so broad right now. Every time I look at something, there's a new name. Florida State shouldn't have any boundaries. If they want to go out and get Mahdi, that's fine. They could use him in the slot, whatever. He's certainly capable. Florida State needs more talent. Now, I'm going to jump in the chat here in just a second, but once again, thank you very much for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen. I truly appreciate it. So let's get a couple questions out of the way and see what's going on here with the chat. First off, we got Rhinos. What's up, man? On 3 says Florida State is going all in on Castellanos. I've heard that from multiple places. It sounds pretty basic to me. It's just a matter of the visit and the fit. But Thomas obviously knows Gus because he was signed by him out of high school. Merrick, I believe that Noles can win with Thomas Castellanos. I think that's true too. I don't think it'll be easy because the O-line and it is a team sport and all that. But he does fit what Gus is trying to do. And they would run helter-skelter speed. It'd be fun to watch. Make no mistake about that. Richard Brookins, the portal to me is the worst thing to happen to college football, but it is here. I think a lot of people in this chat, Richard, would probably agree with you. The portal has a lot of downsides. They've done a horrible job of managing it, and the NCAA is a bunch of cowards. Antoine Gibson, America is about free enterprise. With the money colleges make off these kids, I have no problem with these kids capitalizing on their talent. I'm not saying that I don't have a problem with it, but there's still got to be more checks and balances than what there is. There's got to be a limit to how many times you transfer or something, because it's just gotten out of hand. Mike, I'm ready to see how it all comes together for Coach Norvell and this new staff. It is going a lot better than I thought it would, to be honest. And I'll talk about Coach Hand here in a minute, but it started pretty good. Troy Taylor, with the NIL and portal, signing quarterbacks from high school and keeping them is a waste. Just go buy the best quarterback in the portal each year. I'm not to that level. I think you still need to go get 4 and 5 star guys when you can. If one of them starts, they start, but you need to blend it. Rhinos, I don't care about losing Luke. Everyone on a 2-10 team is replaceable. You know what? On that note, and Rhinos has got a point there. This is a bad football program until otherwise proven. There's a lot of reasons that Florida State is in the situation they're in, and they got to eat that. You know, it is what it is. When we come back, we're going to talk more portal, more thoughts about the quarterbacks and everything else going on. I'm going to have some more comments about the Nebraska players possibly coming to Florida State too. That's next on Locked On Seminoles. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check the latest stats and see all the live play-by-play and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right. Luke had the stank of failure on him. Got the entire team. Two wins means they suck. I don't agree with that at all. I think Luke's got a lot of talent. I don't know where he's going to go, but we'll see how that rolls. Nopatal, over under on transfers out, transfers in. I said they would sign around 20 is my original, but with all the new coaching changes, it could go above that. Wouldn't surprise me if it hit 22, 23, just because you're going to got to consider backups. You got to consider the transfer portal is going to have kickers in it. It's going to have long snappers, everything. You could go over 20. So let's see, but I think the low number now is 18 or 19. Let's look at it that way. Richard Brookins, I just hope Norvell can turn it around with all the new hires and talent. To be honest with you, Richard, I think everybody's looking at it that way, but I'm not sure that Florida State's in a situation. Define turnaround. What does turnaround mean? Because right now, I could see them somehow winning 8 games next year if everything just hit perfect and they had a great year in terms of luck with injuries, if the quarterback works out and they win all their close games. But realistically, a more realistic number to me is between 4 and 6. Their offensive line depth chart is the worst in the Power 4, dead last. How do you win enough games to go to a bowl game in that situation? You got to hit a home run in the portal. Will they? Do they have the money? Do they have the people that are willing to invest as players to come here? It's not like it's O-line U anyway. So there's so many things that go into that. What is your definition of turnaround? How many wins minimum does Norvell need to keep his job? I've had a couple of people ask me this, and it's a valid question. I think it's 2 parts. Number one, it's how many wins, but it's how everything is coming together with the roster. What we're talking about tonight is a major, major factor for Norvell. If he didn't attack the portal and do well, obviously it's just starting, he will have 0 chance to make it through next season to be the head coach. 0. Because A, got to put in effort and everybody can see it. And B, once the effort doesn't work in the portal, you're going to suck next year on the field and he won't even make it through the season. I think 6 wins would probably get him there. Less than that, they would have to lose a lot of close games and have terrible luck. I think it's going to be really hard. Prove me wrong, but they're investing. Like I said, they're doing a good job in the portal. They're retaining players that they need so far. Let's see how it goes. But this is just the beginning of the portal. That question, I will have to answer it between now and the end of next summer before the season starts. I might change my mind on that 50 times, maybe more, because quite frankly, Florida State's roster is going to change not only in this portal cycle. Remember, there's another one in the spring. They did end up giving a second portal cycle. Didn't look like that was going to happen, but there's going to be another one. So a lot of roster turnover. Jared Harmon. Can Norvell do what he did for JT with Castellanos in a matter of months? No. Two things here. Castellanos is not as natural a passer, in my opinion, as he needs to be for that to happen. He's gotten a lot better, but he's a 5'10" kid that can really spin it. I think it's going to be harder for him to do that at the power 4 level in big games, though, against taller defensive linemen and stuff like that you play. It's difficult when it goes against really good programs. I think his number will go down. He's in the 50s, but Gus's offense also throws a ton of screens, a ton. So maybe they can move the ball that way. But again, that's where they got to hit the portal and just absolutely ball out getting receivers. They have to hit some of those for Gus's offense to work. Luke was a true freshman surrounded by trash, not his fault. There's no doubt that was pretty bad. Rhinos, is it too late to back out of the Bama game next season? Brother, that's happening. It won't be pretty, but Florida State's playing Bama. Richard Brookins, turnaround would be going to a bowl and winning at least 8 games next. The chances of that, Richard, are very low. Very low. 8 is like everything hit. I give that about a 2% chance. About a 2%. NK. College presidents, athletic directors, head coaches can go as they please. Why restrict student athletes? The adults created the problem for decades, blah, blah, blah. And the transfer portal is the Band-Aid due to this. It's not a Band-Aid. It's a river that's overflowing the dam. You got to have more restrictions than they do. They can't just come and go in the middle of semester. There's no academic to it. And there's a reason college coaches are leaving the college game, the good ones, in droves. There's no control. If coaches don't have control, coaches don't stick around. Good coaches leave, the product sucks. And we saw a lot of football this year that was pretty watered down. This is part of it. I understand giving kids an opportunity, but you can't. There's a kid, I forget, TJ Finley. He's going to transfer to his 5th school. Really? That's my point. There has to be a limit. Like after your first transfer, you can transfer again, but you got to sit out. There's got to be a reason for these kids to stick around. There's no continuity for programs, academic progress. He's going to be a joke too. Let's see. No Patel. Cam Davis, the quarterback. He did well enough in high school. It would be unique. Cam Davis is actually a pretty good passer. He told me that before I went to see him in a game because he was playing quarterback. I'm like, I got to see it. And he threw 4 touchdown passes in the first half of that game. I went to see him play. So he could throw it. But I'd still rather have him dotting the I and taking toss sweeps. NK, Bama's AD was talking about rethinking their non-conference schedule after winning, about not getting the college football playoff. Maybe FSU should get lucky and Bama cancels the game. Let's see here. Deontay Merricks. Why are we just saying 8 wins? Deontay, if you think Florida State's winning 8 or more next year, I hope you're not a gambler because you're going to lose a lot of money. No, Patel, they just be lucky to get 8. Yeah, there'd have to be everything and have to fall right for that. This roster's got a lot of holes. Richard, yeah, sadly, I know. It is what it is, brother. I mean, realistically, like 4 to 6 is where I see it. And we're so early in the portal, that number doesn't mean anything. But, I mean, they conservatively need not just like 4 good offensive line. They need 4 starters out of the portal. That's just ridiculous. Offensive line is the worst spot in the portal. It ain't even close. And that's Florida State's biggest need. Those two things do not go well together. Jim Mandel. Someone needs to go offer a service to these athletes on how to properly make a decision for transferring. There is risk involved that I'm sure they are not considering. Amen to that. Post of the night there. No, Patel, there is nothing college about college football now. Yeah, that's also a really good post, man. Well said. Richard, At DeMonte, that is sadly the most I could realistically hope for. Mike Merrick, transferring to your fifth school is crazy. Amen to that. It's ridiculous. On that note, I want to take another quick break. I have a few thoughts I want to get into now on the Nebraska players. I think that it's important that we talk about what's next, because not only do I think Florida State's going to get Thomas Castellanos, I think we're going to see some other good news here coming real soon. That's next on Locked On Seminoles. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. It's guaranteed perfection every single bite, and now you can have the unforgettable gifts with 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. With 5 generations of expertise, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have it made easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages featuring gourmet favorites. From steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide for a limited time at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. Minimum purchase may apply. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the transfers from Nebraska. There's a couple of reasons that they need some of these kids that I just want to go over the basics. I know that Florida State needs defensive help anyway, but I was kind of looking at some of these numbers. Let me see if I can find them on my notes from a couple of days ago. They have a lot of different players coming in that are talented for these visits, and Florida State needs as many as they can get. Of course, I'm not going to find these when I need them. Oh, come on. Where is it at? All right, I give up. They need guys that have experience in this defense. You got Jimmy Williams, the Williams kid, I believe, and you got Jamari's going to come in. He's a kid from Mobile. Florida State should recruit that area anyway. They have to get some of these kids from Nebraska to have some continuity. Going from Florida State's downhill 4-3 defense, or 4-2-5, to a 3-3-5 that does attack, but is way different. It's not going to go very smoothly unless you have some players that have played in it before, or even more preferably played with the same coaches last year in Nebraska. There's linebackers, like 2 or 3 different defensive linemen, etc., that could come. Based on everything I'm hearing, I'd expect some good news by the end of next week, not this week, the end of next week, if the visits go well. That is huge for Florida State, because in the front seven of any defense, you need defensive linemen. But more importantly, for the 3-3-5, that is a very specific body type that you need. Bigger, bulkier guys in length. Everything exponentially. You really got to hit the inside straight every year to run that defense and to do it right. So Florida State, I mean, they've got some good defensive linemen on the roster, but not enough depth, and they need different body types. So that would be very, very important. I think Butler is the kid from Mobile. He'll be a 6th-year senior. Like, getting him, he could be your strong side end right out the gate, or at least compete for that spot. It would be huge for Florida State. He could help teach the other kids, so that's important. And you would also have an opportunity to have him show kids that come in for visits in the 2026 and 27 class, this is what it looks like, this is how we practice, etc. All of that is absolutely vital for Florida State football. Let's see. All right, Richard Brookins at DeMonte. This is sadly the most I could realistically hope for. Mike Merrick. That's okay. Miami hit with a few players in Cam Ward. Why can't Florida State? Well, Florida State has before, but there's just so much up and down. It's so hard to predict with the portal, man. It really, really is. Rhinos. Hopefully some of the offensive linemen enter the portal for the playoff teams Florida State can get. That is true. I mean, if you've got a good player that's played a little bit, that's the 6th or 7th guy, and he's not going to start next year, that player might enter the portal. Florida State needs that kind of guy on their roster. Lamar, I wish people would stop running with that 7-figure story. I don't know. I heard somebody talk about Luke Kromenhoek $100 million or something. I don't know what that is from. I highly doubt that based on me knowing. Good news, yes. Yes, Florida State certainly needs some of that. These Power 4 schools should take a look at the guys with 2 years of eligibility from FCS. especially all conference and FCS All-Americans. That's exactly what IU did. They passed on the highly rated kids that didn't hit at their first school, and they took a bunch of guys that had proven college ability. That worked out pretty good. IU went 11-1 this year. I have a feeling that Florida State might follow suit, and so will a lot of other schools. 6 wins next season, bowl eligible at the most, 7 wins, but on the low end, 4 wins. That's kind of where I'm at, Lamar. If they won 8 somehow, I mean, they'd really have to hit the inside straight. Play a couple teams with their quarterbacks banged up, etc. That's how I see it. If I'm proven wrong, so be it. But Florida State football has got a long way to go. At Deontay Merrick, Miami recruited O-line better than us. Oh, yes, they did. So they only needed a few places to plug in. That is true. Miami's O-line recruiting out of high school has been quite good. Nopatal, how could Norvell be so off on the prospects of last year's O-line? It was delusional thinking. That bothers me. It should. Florida State did so bad in high school recruiting the last few years. It's crazy. Lamar, I'm excited to see what this team does on defense after watching some of Tony's breakdown. I think that the defense will be fun just because it's different, and I think they'll bring in some good players, but the staff on the defensive side is going to have a lot of really good coaches. I don't know how creative they're going to be with it, but you're going to have more speed because it's Florida State, no offense to Nebraska. And while it's year one, if you get a couple of the guys that are transfers from Nebraska coming to help, they could be a top 30 defense for at least part of the year next year. Offense is the far, far more difficult area. Ray McCoy, NIL has become a free-for-all and nothing even close to name, image, and likeness. No loyalty, no contracts, no stability. It's sad, and it's about, I'm done with it all. Well, there are contracts, but that's the problem. Like, they're one-year deals, and like college is just an extra. Deontay, we recruit better than a lot of teams that beat us. That's true. Even though we are saying players, which is true, I think coaches put players in bad situations. Florida State's coaching staff did an awful job this year. I think that's what Deontay Merrick's trying to say right now, and he is 100% correct. One more. We shouldn't call it NIL because this isn't that at all. Yeah, it's name, image, and likeness and greed. Ryan Blackman, what's Florida State's NIL budget? Great question. That changes by the day. Depends on what boosters want to do. I mean, I don't think there's any way to really know that number. I'm not sure Florida State knows that number. I agree with Jim Mandel. That's from Lamar. Ray McCoy. Everybody keeps talking about how bowls and wins, and we don't even have a team, much less depth needed to compete at a high level. Right now, that's true. They better bring in 20 really good players from the portal. Ryan Blackman. Is Florida State going deep into their pockets for NIL? I don't know. We'll know pretty soon, because if Florida State is going to have any chance, I mean, think about it. Why would you go to Florida State? They're coming off a 2-10 year if you're a good player. Florida State, I've said this many times, is going to have to overpay in some cases. Prove me wrong. Maybe I am. But if they don't have a lot of money, it's not going to end very well. Chris Counts, any word on the wide receivers coach? I haven't heard anything on that. On that note, I do want to make another statement. Herb Hand was with Gus at Tulsa, at Auburn, at UCF. The O-line, once they get some players, I think will work out pretty good. I've seen him coach from 10 feet away. Players like him. His system works. They always run the ball well wherever he's at. I think they have a chance to be really good with Herb as the O-line coach. The question I have is, are they going to get the guys out of the portal? I do not know. No Patel. We need to recruit the state of Florida like Bobby did. He locked it down. Bobby was a tremendous recruiter. Lamar, how many top-rated O-linemen signed early? All but like one kid from Texas, and Florida State's not going to get him. The coaching staff that's now here doesn't have a relationship with the kid. People forget NIL is only because they refuse to pay players for so long. Remember, players still don't get any of the TV money. Blame the NCAA and the head coaches. Actually, the TV money in some way, shape, or form is a part of what they're getting, but that's not the point. Candidates for linebacker coach. I want to say there was somebody's name came up, but I know that Coach White has coached linebackers, so he could be one of them, but they might do it different ways. They might have another D-line coach. There's a million ways to do that. But that's a good question. I don't think I've seen anybody outside of Coach White, but I could be wrong. William McMillan. I think Trevor Jackson is fixing to get a lot of playing time. Ron Callahan. I feel like I'm turning down my beloved Noles over to Nebraska and UCF. Well, there's going to be kids transfer on that point from a school that you came from if they fit the system, know the system, and are good players. That's pretty inevitable, but it won't be a ton of players. Let's see. Michael Cangelosi, if they get TC, they still need another quarterback in the portal. No way they get TC and Salter. Yeah, that's true. You're not going to get 2 elite guys. It's not going to happen. Any word on Patrick Payton? Not a word that I've heard. Somebody has something, fire away. Georgie, so a 5-star field general just committed to the tribe. 26, what are the odds he stays after his freshman year? Will we ever be content or secure enough to develop an underclassman quarterback to start in his second year? It's hard because nobody has any patience. Here's the problem. I'm just going to make this clear. Everybody's cool with the sophomore starting until he's not elite. The one position in sport nobody has any patience with is quarterback, and it's the hardest. Bare minimum, most guys need to be in their third year removed from high school to be mediocre. Not great, mediocre. Usually the guys are good as seniors and fifth-year seniors. There are a few exceptions, but those guys turn pro after their junior year and go to this thing they call the NFL. So that's why you don't see many sophomores. Michael Cangelosi, another point about Florida State recruiting quarterbacks. NK, which quarterback would you pick between TC and Salter? Who's better? That just depends on what you want to run. I know Castellanos. I don't know Salter that well, so I think Salter might be a little better passer, but it's pretty close. Jeremy Ivins, what running back would you like to see Florida State take in the portal? The kid from Texas State. The kid from Louisiana Monroe is really good too. I saw him play live. He did well against Auburn. Now Auburn's bringing him in for a visit. Tony Cash, if I'm Florida State, the last thing I would hate to face is Caden Salters in a Miami uniform. We need to make a strong pursuit to get him out on our roster. I don't know what Miami's going to do. That's a good question. Mensa, I think that's the kid's name, out of Twain could be another one too. Nopatal, we will start the next 4 seasons 0-1. Bama, Georgia. Quite possibly. Those are not easy games. Chris Counts, my concern is getting a good wide receiver coach. Having a good receiver coach is a big deal for recruiting. People with complaining about Ron Dugan's not being a very good coach and recruit. Yeah, well, you're not wrong. Michael Cangelosi, Miami's going for the Duke kid. He would fit. Georgie, adding on to what I said, will the new norm for Florida State be the quarterbacks be a runner? It just depends on your coordinator. If Gus is here, yeah, he has to have a running quarterback. His offense does not work without it. William McMillan, do you think Norvell goes after 2 quarterbacks in the portal? I do. One of them may not be a starter quality, but more of a backup. But yes, I think so. Keith Quaz, are we getting any O-line in the portal? It's too early, brother. The visits are just starting. If you want results right now, you have to wait. The portal opened on Monday. And the portal evidence has a good O-line in 10 years or more. That's probably true. Just going to make a couple more general comments to wrap it up here. Look for more news later this week. I think everybody expects Castellanos to come. There'll be somebody else announced this weekend or early next week. It's kind of inevitable. This stuff is going to pop very, very fast. It's not like recruiting where I know weeks in advance when somebody's going to visit. Sometimes you hear about it the day of. The portal is way different. Plus, there's going to be contact with kids that are like at a school that's in, it could be Notre Dame, it could be Penn State, it could be Oregon. They're going to leave. They're on a team that has a chance to get a ring, so they're going to stick around, and that won't happen to January. Keep that in mind. And then finally, there's still more coaching news. There could be more news about coaches coming in the next few days. Linebacker coach, receiver coach. Herb Handis got the deal with the Florida State Seminoles for O-line, so that's good news. But this stuff matters. They need to get these guys as soon as possible to help with the portal. I'll read a couple more here before I get out. Linebacker play is still an issue for me too. Hopefully we get some good linebackers in the portal. Do you know any that are targeting? I haven't heard because I don't know who the linebacker coach is, but that's a good question. Jorge, do you know when the new hire press conference is tomorrow? Will there be staff updates during the press conference? I do not. Norvell kind of beats to his own drum with that stuff. Florida State, they get to dictate how they want to do it, but I would assume they will. No Patel, good show. Thank you, sir. Do you think Florida State fans are being too picky with Thomas Castellanos coming off a 2-10 season, no line and receivers? Why would an NFL come here? Florida State fans, like any fan base, want to win now. They're going to be frustrated because it's not going to go as well as they want. That's just life, but they are going to improve. Michael Cangelosi, they need like 10 linebackers with this defense. Final one from Lamar. Does Lundy move to H-back? Is Lundy coming back? I thought he was done, but if he's not, that would be a very, very nice addition. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Locked On Seminoles. I'm going to post this show tomorrow morning. Thank you very much for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. I truly appreciate it. I might have another live chat later this week, depending on how things go. But again, thank you very much. Everybody have a good one. Be safe. And be careful if you go into the portal and start looking at that stuff. It'll capture you. So everybody have a good one. I will see you again on Wednesday.